has made the choice to try and counter Mage with his primary deck.
Yes.
Which I think is a great decision for this week. He's got
check your privilege.
3 decks. Meanwhile, we have 40 because they won't let me cast anymore, Dan.
It's okay, TJ. I'm proud of you.
Thank you.
I'm loving your shirt and your fashion choices. Each flamingo was a season. It's like a badge. It's like a purple heart for casting with Admirable. Every event you cast, you get another pink flamingo on your shirt.
The one thing about casting with Admirable so long is I never needed to have an opinion on anything because he brought enough to that desk for the both of us. We'll just put it that way.
Yes, that's right. But then he got casted with Derek, and then he shaved like 90% of his beard off.
He's having an identity
crisis. The source of his power. Yeah, he's honestly
a huge identity.
Samson, what do we even do? So Zalae, he has an opening magic trick, chooses to withhold it. Might need it for a more reactive situation here. Like, he doesn't necessarily know what he needs immediately. I got a chance to actually sit in on Zalae's practice, and it looked like he was testing Hunter a lot and Mage. I think those were the 2 candidates he was looking at, but ultimately decided with Mage. Probably because, as you heard from ETC and many other players, it is the safe route to choose because Mage is never truly out of any matchup. Even its worst ones, it still has like that Frost Nova situation that you kind of saw.
Yep.
And you never can really truly like prepare for Mage sometimes because of the possibilities of all the random outcomes here.
So Dog took the risk and did not coin Shield Slam the Sorcerer's Apprentice. And I was going to talk about it. I said there's a few huge punishes to this, and this is one of them. Now, his reasoning is pretty much that he just wants to be able to coin Big Game Hunter to deal with a giant, right? He doesn't have any other answer in his hand currently, and if you let one giant stick, the game snowballs out of control. But also, if you let a Sorcerer's Apprentice live, the game can snowball just in a different direction. And he's going to pull the trigger on the Shield Slam this turn with not too much lost. But there was a slim chance, like, let's say Zalae was able to pick up, a magic trick from his Arcane Intellect. It got 1 additional spell,
right?
And Mountain Giant were to come down this turn. But again, saving the coin accounts for that as well, because he can coin the Big Game Hunter to deal with it. So he's like, I'll take 3 damage, and worst case scenario is I still have the answer to what he can do.
Whew. 2 Mountain Giants. But yeah, it's a good point here. Dog saving that coin for the possibility, but Zalae being 1 card off from that giant makes him be able to take it a lot slower. Now, I mean, Dog has almost all the cards that he wants outside of Brawl, and maybe the Super Collider to deal with anything that Zalae can set up.
Yeah. Now, Dog does have the answer to the giant even outside of Big Game Hunter with Dynamatic plus Wrench Caliber. I'm curious to see if he's willing to take 8 damage to make that happen. But with no other removal in his hand, it is a possibility to try and be greedy with the Big Game Hunter, knowing that he hasn't picked up the second one, he hasn't picked up Brawl, he hasn't picked up Execute. So you have to make sure that you have checks every step of the way, because one misstep, and you're looking at a board full of 8/8s and 7/8s that's going to keep chipping away at your life total. And by chipping, I mean blasting away at your life total. Pooping on your life total.
Whoa.
Excuse me. Got a little carried away there. I'm really passionate about Mage.
Job's done.
And DCs, apparently. I feel like every series you've been finding a way. You talking about my path leads back to you, TJ.
I've only said poop 3 times on this
Your
broadcast,
path always
man.
leads back to the restroom. I hope.
Light the music.
Dog, checking for the secret. No Mirror Entity. Counterspell, of course, a lot less effective against an opponent that still has the coin. But Zalae was hoping for this Mountain Giant Conjures Calling setup and tries to go for non-stop pressure. The idea is that, yes, you can Mountain Giant last turn, but this turn you get 2 equivalent Mountain Giant targets. And the next turn, it continues to stack onto itself. So Dog has he knows that there's a second Conjurer's Calling in hand, but he can't kill off this Graveheart and this and this Mountain Giant at the same time.
What now?
So he's got to try and pace himself here because he can only deal with one. So how do you set up the best board to deal with two? The play that stood out instantly to me was hit into the... Oh, no, he can't hit because he hasn't checked for splitting image yet. So I think he's honestly forced to big game hunter here, even just for that fact. The second fact is, even if it's not splitting image, he trades over this Grave Horror, and then he has a 6/6 Ziliax on the board that Zalae has an easy value trade into in a clear board for Conjurer's Calling. So this is the best play for multiple reasons, because he plays around two different scenarios that would be a punish for him.
Zalae locked in, deep in thought. He knows that counterspell is still a possibility, or sorry, that counterspell could get run into by a coin, so he's not going to rely too much on like a giant all-in here. Otherwise, yes, his best play for tempo is the Conjurer's Calling. Perhaps instead he can utilize this Ray of Frost. He could develop, maybe he can Conjurer's Calling and then Ray of Frost and then just like let Dog respond to it while setting up, you know, a very soft way to kill his opponent. Another alternative is just to play another giant.
Yeah. I think the other giant is a more important tool than Conjurer's Calling. Because the Conjurer's Calling he has two of, and he can giant with no Conjurer's Calling, but he can't really Conjurer's Calling to great effect without a giant. So also this lets him preserve his hand size, so he keeps Mountain Giant at 3 by using the second copy of Conjurer's Calling to get the twin spell back in his hand.
Yeah, this is good recognition here from Zalae because Ray of Frost and Snap Freeze are a lot more flexible as opposed to utilizing them and floating mana. So Cone of Cold doing the same thing that we were talking about, but keeping his hand size high so that Mountain Giant's cheaper. And now Dog has Dr. Boom Mad Genius, has the Geppetto Joy Buzz, and all these other cool late game cards that are important, but can't deal with the immediate threat. Is this already game over here, TJ?
No. He can still Dr. Boom Mad Genius, and then hope that he draws a Brawl next turn.
Sure.
That's kind of where my line of thinking is. He can, let's say, Clockwork Goblin coin Ziliax, but then if he hasn't checked for Counterspell yet. So if it's Counterspell, then he Clockwork Goblins and dies.
You coin first.
Yeah, you coin first and try and get that out of the way. But I think all lines point to Dr. Boom regardless. So you might as well just do that. You can always have the coin to test for Counterspell next turn if you need to.
Flash Shield could be useful if Dog picks up a Shield Slam.
Now for Zalae, Dog didn't really give him much because he still has with double Brawl, with Super Collider, with double BGH in the deck, there's so much stuff you have to play around. It's like, how much do you extend here onto the board? And I think the answer is a lot. Because you have Mountain Giant plus another Conjurer's Calling in hand, plus Archmage Antonitis with Reload. So I think that Zalae can feel free here to just play a lot of stuff.
I also think
Dog
that
to the test.
Yeah, no, it's a good point. Maybe, but he also could just slowly nudge the issue. Maybe just play Sea Giant and you ping and you just can't go face.
I mean, that gives you a good brawl outcome no matter what. You could still, if he does brawl away or remove your board in some way, which is pretty much exactly brawl, you can Mountain Giant double Conjurer's Calling next turn. I mean, that seems like a great play to me.
Yeah. Question just becomes if he wants to take down this Dynamatic to increase his chances that he, or to guarantee that he wins the brawl based off what's on the board, but he misses 7 damage.
And that's something that Zalae really never does. And now I think Dog is dead.
Well, he does have to magnetize on the current minion on the board.
Yeah, and then he can Clockwork Goblin to trade off 1, but then he doesn't go Blast Shield, so he goes up to 16.
This would be a
and then
good
he's
time
dead
for a
to
master
the
plan.
Snap Freeze, but he doesn't know that.
He doesn't know that yet, and honestly, that may be his only way to survive. If he Geppetto Joy buzzes, he can't Blast Shield. Even if he picks up BGH to coin it out, 1, still has a check for Counterspell, and 2, he's still dead.
Right.
So everything kind of points to dead.
Master plan.
Unity, precision,
going to pass to hope that Zalae doesn't have direct removal. Bomb being drawn, but it's not going to be of any consequence. Zalae is going to cruise to a Game 1 victory here, crushing the Warrior. And Dog has an anti-mage Warrior deck list. While Zalae wasn't really accounting for the Warriors, but was able to get that fast start anyways.
Yep.
And that is a 1-0 lead for Zalae.
And this is what I was kind of talking about with it's taking out both copies of Snap Freeze, both copies of Frost Nova, and the big mid-sized threats that Dog may feel forced to expend removal on. That is precious removal that he may need later on for the Giants plus Conjurer's Calling turn. So I don't know. I feel like Dog was trying to get a leg up in Game 1 with the way his deck was constructed. It's a bold call to bring Warrior when you have to be inclined to think that with little time to experiment with how successful Mage was last week, that a lot of players would be on it. But I never fault people for making a bold choice, even if it doesn't work out for them, Dan.
I agree. I think that in Hearthstone, it always is it's just so much easier to make the safer play a lot of times. And the bold plays is often what is not only the flashiest and the coolest, but of course, what gives you the highest rewards at times. All right, 2 brawls.
That's a start.
To start, no Giants here for Zalae's opening. People might be observing that games have been going pretty fast. It tends to end really fast when your opponent gets a Mountain Giants early on.
Yeah. It's going to end fast for one player or the other. Either you're going to go over the top of the Mountain Giants and kill him before it becomes an issue, or you're going to die to him. Those are 90% of the time, that's what happens. In this matchup, maybe a little bit different, because the Warrior, if they do find answers to the Giants relatively early, then the game can go quite long. It's a slugfest. But even with this Mage, even if your Mountain Giants get removed, you can just load up a giant board with Archmage and Ice and just chuck a bunch of fireballs right at his face.
Yeah, I think that's the backup plan. If you can't get there through Giants, get there through burn damage. Definitely one of the downsides of having Dr. Boom at Genius is that you don't have the consistent armor gain. Dog with shield block, not much else to do. Zalae on the double pass plan to get the Giant potentially out, but he was considering hero powering the minion versus hero powering the face. He wants to keep the armor count down because he knows the possibility of shield slam, but with that shield block being played, it means that Zalae can't avoid shield slam no matter what he does. Maybe that's his opportunity for him to just draw cards. He chooses to go. If that 1-2 wasn't there, maybe he would even consider playing Stargazer Luna, but he is walking into the Militia Commander turns.
Dog, swing with the Wrench Caliber. Knows that it's a good possibility that Acidic Swampers and Hearthstone Gems are put into the deck, so might as well get that going quick enough. Also unlocks Blastmaster Boom, should he draw it. And because he has both Execute and Shield Slam, he doesn't have to worry about maybe losing some armor for Shield Slam, because he has the 1-2 on the board to activate the Execute if a Mountain Giant were to come down.
I wonder.
I mean, Zalae does have opportunities to go for big plays here with the Sandbinder if it pulls out Mana Cyclone, but that's not guaranteed. Because a Mountain Giant is an elemental as well. So if you draw the other elemental of a Mountain Giant, you're just stuck with your hand. There's no Conjurers calling for him to save for the following turn anyways. Maybe this is just a Stargaze Luna play and pass. You're not going to be struggling on a card draw for a while, and your hand size is going to stay relatively high almost for like the next 7 turns or so, it seems like.
Yeah.
Just goes for the Giant and the Mirror Image.
Plays around Execute.
He does, but not around Shield Slam. He knows that. I mean, Dog even had it covered, even if Zalae did manage to squeeze off a ping or an extra damage. So now Dog picks up Blastmaster Boom. Makes him want to hold on to the weapon swing so that way he can get the bombs into the deck guaranteed before the actual battle cry goes off.
Yep, but there's a fine balance because the longer you wait, the more likely Zalae's to find weapon removal. But if you attack sooner, then Zalae's more likely to draw the bomb to make Blastmaster Boom less effective. So
Right. I mean, maybe this is the time where Dog starts reading into the long pause from Zalae, like why did he take so long for that play?
yeah,
For the Giant.
yeah.
More importantly, Zalae playing 2 cards means that he doesn't have a 3-mana Mountain Giant, so Mountain Giant coin into the Conjurer's Calling is out of the question, which would have complicated Super Collider.
I wonder.
Zalae does still have that 4-minute Giant, though, and he did see a Shield Slam. I think his plan is to coin out into the Astromancer as well, eventually as the game progresses, but he does also have the possibility of guaranteeing the draw with the Mana Cyclone with the Sandbinder now. So next turn he has either the Astromancer, and then he can refill his hand with Sandbinder and Shenanigans. The longer the game goes, the more potential you have for big swings with Mana Cyclone as well.
Yeah. This is it's an awkward turn.
Yeah, it's an awkward turn for Dog, especially because he can't execute that 8/8.
And he doesn't want to brawl this board, I wouldn't think. Now, that is second Mountain Giant, but because even though he doesn't know for sure, like I said earlier, he has to be inclined to think that Zalae has switched over to a secondary deck. Knowing that, he knows that there may be more chance for more boards that he needs those brawls to be able to deal with. So... And then it's a 1 and 4. Like, what if the Mountain Giant survives? Then you use one of your biggest removal pieces for effectively nothing to remove 2 0/2s from the board. It's pretty brutal.
Yeah, Ziliax just to add a roadblock and going to invest this bomb into the deck. It gives him options if he wants to Blastmaster Boom or if he wants to Super Collider Execute.
Yep.
Bomb explodes. In Zalae's mind, it's like obviously doesn't want to take that damage, but does help him with the Blastmaster Boom situation.
Yeah.
Okay.
So he's at 16.
I mean, now there's some magic that can happen here, but Zalae would want to go quickly if he wants to go for the Sandbinder, Sorcerer's Apprentice, and then go absolutely nuts with the Mana Cyclone, or he can coin out Astromancer to keep his life simple.
Yeah, if you coins out Astromancer, what does he get, a 7-drop? That's, okay.
8 is the magic number next week. Well, when we're like analyzing a bunch of the changes, 8 mana minions got a lot better because things like Loop Sprayer left the pool.
Yep.
With the buff.
Which was one of the biggest misses at the 8 slot. And outside of that, you have some gas.
Same thing with even Elysiana to a certain extent. Magic Trick, Icicle. I mean, it deals 2 damage to a minion, so it gets the job done. But that's 2 less spells for the Mana Cyclone. So Zalae favoring the punch with the Giant. This sets up the Super Collider to execute really nicely, though, for Dog.
He can even go execute Militia Commander.
Oh, yeah, that might be better because Super Collider doesn't get oozed or Harrison, and you don't lose as much out.
Yeah, because this isn't like the highest value Super Collider, and if you're expecting it to get oozed, then you want to wait for the juicy one, like one giant that's Conjurer's Calling. But honestly, both giants have been used. Both mountain giants have been used.
Right.
And the Sea Giant is cut from the secondary deck.
Yep. I like the Militia Commander better.
Also gives you a little bit of board presence. Maybe you can fight back and play Blastmaster Boom, even though it's just 2 boom bots. It's still a big 7/7 that Zalae has to deal with. So,
yeah, I am still a little bummed though that we don't have the Sorcerer's Apprentice for like the crazy Mana Cyclone turns.
Mm-hmm.
It does feel like that is one way that you can capitalize, and even if it like. Let's say we get to the scenario where like you don't use a Sorcerer's Apprentice, you still have like the opportunity to play Antonitis and cheap spells like Magic Trick to rack up a hand half full of fireballs.
Yeah. Usually with this mage deck, you know, if I was in Zalae's shoes, so I typically play it is if my Mountain Giants get dealt with early, I just try and get a bunch of random spells and then save a Sorcerer's Apprentice to make sure that I can get like 6 or 7 fireballs with Archmage Antonidas.
Right.
And then use that to win in the late game. Because at this point, with Astromancers, I don't think Astromancers are enough to just straight up win the pressure game.
Right. And then this Conjurer's Calling draw does give it that pressure, though.
Sure, yeah, Conjurer's Calling does. But now you know that there's more brawls. You didn't force out too much premium removal with those Mountain Giants. It was a Shield Slam and a Execute that weren't even that difficult for Dog to activate. So that's kind of where my thinking is. But Zalae going to try and maybe stick something on the board and go for that a big Astromancer next turn, or try and look for a large Mana Cyclone because of that Sandbinder in hand.
Well, Dog's easy removal of Stargazer Luna is the Super Collider. Could play Blastmaster Boom to summon just a normal Dr. Boom scenario. And I think those are the only 2 plays. I don't think anything else is on the menu here.
What now?
That is a big decision, though. If you Super Collider, you know your opponent can still, like, Astromancer Ooze next turn. A hard board to brawl because you don't have any presence. Well, I guess you do, because you'd keep the Militia Commander alive. So, yeah, I guess I like the Super Collider better there. The coin is a big expenditure for Zalae. If he were to, like, Astromancer coin... Oh, no, he doesn't. Oh, yeah, I guess it works out both ways. You have to trade in the Militia Commander whether you Super Collider either target, so...
Right. And also, if you leave up a small minion, Zalae could position around it to complicate the Super Collider positioning.
Absolutely.
So you have to kill off those small, pesky minions. Otherwise, if Zalae, bookmarked or bookcased it.
I wonder.
Dog still needs some resources. One of the cards that's missing from this deck with its kind of tech for mage is Omega Assembly. So his late game punch is not as big.
Wow, he saw a bunch of removal options, and he's just gonna play Antonidas. Does he invest more? Does he drop the coin for a Fireball? It seems like a pretty nice exchange of resources.
Time runs out on me.
Is he saving the coin for anything? The coin could also be another spell with the Mana Cyclone.
This is actually a very smart play, because if Dog is BGH, he's already seen an Execute. There's not enough armor for Shield Slam. There's nothing for Super Collider to attack it into. It would have to be like Dinomatic plus Militia Commander to deal with it, because it's even a turn before Omega Devastator.
Right. This was specifically timed, and now Dog does not have an answer to this Antonidas in any capacity. Last has to boom, hero power. Zalae's gonna get at least a couple more fireballs here. I mean, he doesn't even have to remove this boom. He could also just freeze it and then keep going.
Yeah, freeze it and push 18, and then refill his hand with 3 more fireballs, which is another 18 damage. And at that point, Dog would be all the way down to 17 life. So if he can fit in pings, it kind of outpaces the armor there over 2 turns. Both shield blocks are gone, so the armor gain is limited to Dr. Boom Mad Genius.
I wonder.
Yeah, I think I like Ray of Frost definitely with the 1 mana slot. Seems like a very efficient way to use it to gain tempo.
Time runs out on me.
Or even just push damage.
Unity, precision, perfection.
Attack into the Boombot first. Celiax bites the dust. Ray of Frost. Conjurer's Calling on his Antonidas. I was not expecting that. That's a plot twist.
Whoa.
Full hand so he can't get bombed. Now Brawl is a lot better, I guess. At least on the table.
That's interesting to me. Now he has.
He can also just Super Collider and then Boombot, like attack and then.
I think he might want to limit his life total.
Right.
I
5.
don't know, but if he loses this brawl, there's still a minion on board with the Condor's Calling left in hand. I guess he could Dinomatic swing?
Yeah,
or just Dinomatic as the Boombot if it goes, yeah. All right.
Mana Cyclone, but that's okay. We ditched that plan with the use of the coin, the magic trick, and the invocation. With 5 fireballs, but
geez.
not enough mana. This is a chat lethal if I've seen one. I think Astromancer here seems
this is
reasonable with Khadgar.
Yeah.
We must band together, united for Dalaran.
Just gotta put the pressure on it because you go fireballs now, and Dog picks up Dr. Boom Mad Genius. You basically wasted those, right? Because you're not applying any other pressure.
Splinter Graft.
I will do chopping now.
I mean, one brawl was used.
Yeah, I think at this point you pull the trigger on the second brawl, hope a Splinter Graft or your Dinomatic lives. Splinter Graft lives, then you can just BGH it.
Right.
And you should know that Zalae's pretty much out of resources. He's used both Giants, he's used an Astromancer, he could have a second Astromancer, but Khadgar's also gone.
And he also used his Mana Cyclone got burned.
His Mana Cycle got burned. You know that 5 out of the 7 cards in his hand are fireballs. So
that Militia Commander draw is actually pretty important because now Dog has a guaranteed clear of anything.
Yep.
So it's all about whether or not Dog feels like he wants to utilize the second brawl.
Oh man, if you can go double BGH here, but you're taking 7, and he has 33 damage over 3 turns. So even if you draw Dr. Boom in there, if you take 7 from this, that negates it, and you're not armoring up. I think second brawl it has to come out here.
However, if he plays the Big Game Hunter, he's ahead on the board. And Zalae's not at a life total that's entirely trivial.
That's true. That's very true.
It would be establishing 10 power.
That's very true.
I think this is all right. If Dog can find... And plus, remember, he's playing Bomb Warrior. There's like a possibility that he just picks up more bomb situations.
Yep.
All right, if I'm Zalae, pretty sure I'm just going to start pushing aggressively. Your hand says damage.
He can still Conjurer's Calling the Astromancer, because his breakpoints work out to where...
What to do?
There's going to be one turn if he throws all these fireballs to face that he's only playing 1, so he can make that this turn. But he's staring at 11, 12 damage on the other side if he pokes with the Super Collider.
So I think you attack and then you Conjurer's Calling and then you Ray of Frost to freeze. It gives you enough to throw in 1 fireball.
Yeah.
So you put your opponent down to 22, then down to 16. If you're able to get, on average, 2 5-attack minions, you'll have 10 plus 2 fireballs. That's 22 potential damage.
Yeah.
Pretty good. Both shield blocks have been used.
Time runs out on me.
Definitely on the weaker side of 7-mana minions.
Now, on the other hand, if Zalae had gone with double fireball this turn and gone face with the Astromancer, he would have put him down to 10. With just an armor up, that's a double fireball lethal setup for the next turn.
It's true.
And there's not a single card that kills him. He would need... like another bomb activator plus double bomb strong.
Yeah.
So Zalae did have a 2-turn lethal set up.
Huh.
Oh, jeez.
Actually, that's a good point. But he's taking the conservative route of trying to keep his resource count high, and he is sort of rewarded with the Book of Specters and Flame Strike, which happen to be pretty nice in these situations.
Yep.
Book of Specters also has an added benefit of diffusing the bombs if Dog ends up going for a bomb out. The positioning here is very annoying, and the Rabble Bouncer, even though it's not powerful offensively, adds up enough defensive prowess to make it annoying for the Super Collider.
If a brawl doesn't come out here, I'll be very surprised.
just going to kill the Gonk. Not the Gonk! I love that card. Apparently Gonk Druid in Wild is definitely a thing. If you ever venture out there into the brave safari zone
Yeah.
of Hearthstone.
It's, I loved playing the deck in the one day that I played it.
It's pretty funny.
When it first came out, the OTK Gonk with the pounces.
It even was played in some
Claw.
Conquest
What to
tournaments.
do?
It was
ECT.
very few.
Yeah, I think Muzzy brought it one time. So did Fino.
Didn't I?
That's why they're both on my fantasy team, because these guys understand what's up.
What's
That's
important
Gonk.
in Hearthstone?
What's gonking.
Yeah. Dude, I'm confused by the last play. So Dog knows that Zalae's hand is 100% spells.
Except for the card drawn. But yes, you're right.
Except for the card drawn. So there's no minion
multi-saving
pressure
brawl.
that's going to come out.
Right.
If he plays her on the worst case scenario, that's Gonk surviving. There's still 4 damage on board.
I think he's playing for the best board possible, so that way he can pressure his opponent's life total.
Sure, but Zalae has 5 fireballs in hand, and every point of damage matters, because now Dog can't even outpace it with Dr. Boom Mad Genius.
Unless he gets blast shield every other turn.
Even then, if Zalae had just thrown fireballs to the face there, he would have put him down to, what, 6 life?
Yeah, I mean, this.
And then
looks-
even if he picks up Dr. Boom, he would have to get Blast Shield and Dr. Boom that turn to even live. I don't know. It's just a very oddly played game. I'm not saying anything is incorrect, because obviously Dog is trying to...
Don't be so afraid, TJ.
Because maybe I'm not seeing something, but I feel like Zalae, out of any player, setting up 2-turn lethals, you rarely find a player that won't. When there's only 1 card out of when his first opportunity was when he had 13 cards left. 1 card out of 13 that punishes you.
In this case, Zalae may not have to. You can play Sorcerer's Apprentice, Ray of Frost, double Fireball.
Yeah, and there's not even a Ziliax left in the deck. Ziliax is gone too. It's literally just Dr. Boom Mad Genius.
Okay, so this still gives him the ability to play Sorcerer's Apprentice. Just wants to maximize his board,
One's out
but
on me.
interesting. So he still has the double Fireball lethal here,
Yep,
and I think that's it.
Dog's dead with
Dog
a brawl
is
dead in
dead.
his hand.
Yeah, I mean, it took a while to get to the Fireball phase, but Zalae's crossing every possibility off
Yeah.
the checklist, and that's going to be a 2-0 win.